Welcome to Mad at the Movies, where I make biased, one-sided opinions about the latest movies. For this episode, I decided to watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot/sequel/latest Netflix cash grab. Fair warning, this review will contain many spoilers for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not that this movie has anything to spoil, mind you. I wasn't in high spirits going into this film to begin with because I'm really tired of these new horror sequels that reuse their original titles, like the new Halloween and the new Scream movie as an example. Depending on how you look at it, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise has been rebooted 4 times, which is actually 1 less time than the Halloween franchise. So anyone who's a fan of the original Texas Chainsaw movie will know that the film is really an allegory for animal abuse, and the murders committed in that film reflect how cattle are butchered in the meat industry. So the deeper meaning behind this new movie is gentrification. I think it is. I don't know. The thing I love about this is that it's only an hour and 20 minutes, but it somehow lazily packs in every controversial issue there is under the sun. I mean, you got gun violence, racism, gentrification, and the Confederate flag. If it's something that you don't want to discuss with your family at Thanksgiving, this movie makes a lazy effort to include it. Now, you're probably thinking by now, where's the actual chainsaws and the massacre in this movie? Well, don't hold your breath because there's barely any horror in this horror movie. I mean, it's in the horror section, in the horror genre on Netflix. Why? But it has no horror in it. I mean, what is all this crap? I mean, like, seriously.
You're costing us money.
Yeah.
Like, look at me. Eyes on me. You can be replaced. So
Yeah.
there are a million Elis.
Yeah.
You would love to have this gig. Right? You do it again.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Okay. Yeah. I understand. I mean, Leatherface doesn't even pick up a chainsaw until the first half of the movie is over. I mean, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Where's the chainsaws? I mean, it makes sense if you think about it, though, because with today's gas prices, you kind of have to be cost efficient with your murder sprees. I mean, that's just smart thinking. This movie does take place in the modern day, so Leatherface has to be at least in his 70s or 80s. I mean, if you think about it, like, you know, it's just a scary old man with a chainsaw. I mean, it's not too scary to me, if you think about it. Also, I found out that this movie was made entirely in Bulgaria, which I didn't realize that Bulgaria looks like Texas, so now you know. I mean, do with that information what you will. So this movie takes place around 50 years after the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where a group of young people, including 2 sisters, buy up cheap property in an abandoned Texas town of Harlow to eventually sell to potential business owners. I mean, the real villain in this movie is actually real estate, like, let's just be honest. These ambitious youngsters realize that one of the houses is still occupied by an elderly woman and her adult adopted son, who turns out to be Leatherface. Which is weird because in the first film, Leatherface lives in a farmhouse in a field with his brother and grandfather. While in this film, he lives in an orphanage right in the middle of the town of Harlow with his adopted mother. So I don't really know where the disconnect happened there, where everything got totally messed up. I mean, it's totally not confusing at all whatsoever. So when they tell this old woman that she's being evicted, she goes into a heart attack right away and then dies before she even gets to the hospital, which prompts Leatherface to go on a killing spree.
Try anything and you're canceled, bro.
So in a very sad attempt to connect the original film to the sequel, the character of Sally Hardesty is shown to be alive and well after being attacked by Leatherface in the first movie 50 years prior. So Sally has to literally be a deus ex machina and come save the people from Leatherface.
Remember me now? I'm the one who got away, and I'm here to make sure you don't.
She then is immediately disemboweled by Leatherface with his chainsaw as soon as she arrives. Deus Ex Machina, more like Deus Ex Chainsaw, am I right? I knew you guys don't find that funny. The sisters eventually take on Leatherface and defeat him using the power of love or some other kind of malarkey like that. I don't really remember what happened, you know, I skipped past that part. And as they're driving off into the sunset, Leatherface just shows up again and kills the one sister while the car magically drives away with the other sister in it. The end. So yeah, something definitely died in me when I saw this movie. Without comparing this new Texas Chainsaw movie to the original too much, it definitely suffers from a lack of imagination and a lack of actual horror. Nothing about this movie is actually scary or contains anything whatsoever that like freaked me out. Nothing. The film's story kind of reminds me of someone who's like a procrastinator, where they spend the whole week doing nothing, and then they do all their work on a Sunday night to kind of rush it. That's how the whole movie feels, if I could explain it in some sort of way. In case anyone is still interested in watching this dumpster fire, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 is available to watch on Netflix. I'm your host, Eli, and this has been another rage-filled episode of Mad at the Movies. I mean, okay, guys, are we seriously going to keep doing more terrible movies? Like, I'm getting really mad here, okay? I mean, this is ridiculous.